Soul Journey of Life on social media.
This is an awakening.
Snap out of it! Thought-provoking, challenging the popular perspectives, critical of today's opinions. We go all the way in deep. What's a thought's worth if thoughts must conform to ill-conceived theories and so-called orthodox beliefs, twisted opinions of hypocrisy? How do we reach new heights? Ascend to higher realizations, activate the powers of abstract reasoning. We must break the chains that hold us down from celestial flights. Face what you think you know with what you have yet to know. For the moment, never mind how you believe things ought to be. We must revolutionize our minds for there to be a clear way to unify. For that to happen, we must have a seat at the table all over again. Just making sure the light works. Unlock the keys of scrutiny. Revive what it means to pursue knowledge. Manifest the God in we, you and me. Welcome to your wake-up call. Soul Journey of Life. Conscious Black social media. The LightDome. Yes, indeed, family. This is your brother, Abdul Adud, aka Questman, coming live Soul Journey of Life, the LightDome, Conscious Black social media. Just making sure the light works. Let's see here. I'd like to begin by welcoming all the viewers coming in. Assalamu alaikum, rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Shalom, peace and blessings be with you. Hotep, love, and may the grace of the Most High, whom I use the term Allah, be pleased with what righteous acts and moves that you do in this world, and fill your days with blessing and happiness, positivity. I want to begin. I know this is we're going to be looking, continuing the reading of the blueprint for Black Hour by Amos Wilson, but there's some new details that have come to my attention as of this current week, and I want to acknowledge them during this live, if I can. Let's see here. Make sure I got that up. Yep. I want to acknowledge them while I'm doing this live, and especially for those who might consider that racism does not exist, or that this is not an issue to be concerned with within the Black community. For those that have this idea or have this perspective, and by the way, there's your disclaimer. for any content that I'm presenting on here that is property of its respective owner. We're using it here for reporting, teaching, research purposes, criticism, etc. But I want to share with you something here. Let's see if I can. Oh, there we go. I want to share with you something that you probably have heard something about if you've been looking in the latest news or what have you. This gentleman, this young man right here, his name is Tyree Nichols. And I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but this is yet another melanated black brother who was killed, another victim of police brutality, another example of the ongoing problems that are suffering in these days. And I want to say at an alarming rate. One, two, three, four, five is too many. Multiply that, still too many. It last I checked, it never ceases to be too many. Um, when it comes to the loss of lives, one is too many, and yet here is another one to add to the list of the many whose life has been taken without right, unjustly. So I wanted to start this live by acknowledging this and recognizing um, the that here is another victim of criminal activity in the form of those who are supposed to serve and protect, and those who wear badges, utilizing their badges unjustly, utilizing their authority um, improperly. And this, from what I was able to observe, has even been acknowledged by their superiors, such as the chief of police herself. Um, I want to. Now I'm not. I'm not. I have no desire to show the footage of what took place. You've got plenty of locations across the internet for which you can do that. If you so desire to get more details. But I do intend to show or share a few clips or imageries or whatnot that I have come across. And what you see right here, there we go, is it says, who was Tyree Nichols? 9-year-old killed by Memphis police officers was a skateboarder, photographer, and free spirit who marched to the beat of his own drums. Basically, from what I understand from that, a positive young man. Um, a positive young man with a lot going, upward in his life. All that put to an end at the hands of injustice. Nichols was pulled over by Memphis police officers on January 7th. Officers chased him down to tase, pepper spray, and restrain him. Police beat Nichols for about 3 minutes, severely injuring him. He died in the hospital 3 days later. One of Nichols' many passions was photography. He had a website of his portfolio which showed his love of landscapes. Nichols' love for life was not stifled by his digestive disease known as Crohn's disease. He struggled to maintain his health at just 6'3" and 140 pounds.
At least two of the officers who beat him weighed over 200 pounds. Nichols' mother said he loved her so much that he had a tattoo of her name on his arm. He left behind a 4-year-old son. And here's an article also related to this. This Jason Nichols says research shows that black folks suffer PTSD from watching videos of blacks being killed by police. It's a phenomena called linked fate, where we see ourselves and loved ones in the place of the victim. Be careful watching the Tyree Nichols murder video. Protect your mind. I happen to agree with this because, and by the way, that is the respected mother, Rovon Wells, of the late brother Tyree. I want to talk about what this post right here, but let's hear something of what this mother was saying. I think I should be able to play, but let me see. I might have to reload this. So let's see here. Now I'm not going to show the video of the mother talking because it's on, an account that doesn't belong to me. So I'm just going to share with you the audio while you see the image of Tyree. I should be able to do that anyway. Let's see if I can, because it says share tab audio. Can I do it this way? Nope. I know what I can do. Give me a moment, and I'm going to share this with you another way, the audio I'm talking about. So let me go back to sharing this screen right here. Then I can do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share it, and hopefully it'll pick up through my mic set. So let's do like this. All right. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I don't know if you heard that. Let me play that one more time. Sit down. Just put it right here. Sit down right there. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna try to play that one more time. Okay. So hopefully you heard that. I'm not sure how well you could hear that with the way I had to present it, but hopefully you have heard that. And shout out to the family of Tyree Nichols. You have my condolences and respect. And, my prayer for you is that you remain strong, steadfast, patient, and know that the higher power sees all that's going on. Okay. Just sit down like you were. All right. So let's get into this reading, shall we? Let's get into this reading. I can minimize this now. So yes, indeed, you can sit back, relax a little bit, get your headphones, your cup of coffee, whatever you choose, your chai, and let us listen in to today's live presentation reading. Give me a second here because I wanted to. There we go. So if you remember, um, all right. If you can remember, we left off on page 41. So, and by the way, I do have the PDF for this. So if you desire the PDF, uh, I mean, I could email it to you. Otherwise, there is the link to where I was able to get the PDF from in the description. So you could follow that link and it will take you to where the PDF version of this book can be found without too much difficulty. Peace and blessings. So page 41, or beginning or continuing, I should say, where it says sources of organizational power. Sources of organizational power. Starting there, we read Horton and Hunt, 1968, correctly point out that the struggle for power often appears to be largely a contest between organizations. The power of highly organized groups is only checked by the opposition of other groups. These authors further delineate a number of sources of organizational power and some factors which affect group power. And by the way, I almost forgot something here. I wanted to point out something that I reflected upon as we were looking at those slides. If you remember, there was a Jason Nichols post on a source from Twitter where I'm gonna just reread that post just when we get right back into the book. But I want to make sure I did this and not forgot. I almost forgot. Research shows, Jason Nichols says, shows that black folks suffer PTSD from watching videos of blacks. Okay, there you go, sticking your tongue out. Watching videos from blacks being killed by police. It's a phenomenon called linked fate, where we see ourselves and loved ones in the place of the victims. Be careful watching the Tyree Nichols murder video. Protect your mind. And I said I agreed with that uh, observation because I often am affected in that way when I watch, any reports or hear of any reports of missing youth or some maniac that does criminal acts. Related to children and whatnot. And, in my mind, I just imagine, my own children suffering that, and it makes me feel some kind of way. It makes me really um, upset, to be nice with the choice of words. Um, and so that type of feeling, what I notice is in that feeling is a mind to want to see those type of people dealt with. You understand? And it requires self-control because one thing I do agree with when it comes to divine law is that manifesting law is a community thing when it's in the community, when it involves the community. And in short, we don't take the matters into our own individual hands unless there's no other option. If you have no other option, then you do what you got to do. But at the end of the day, you want to get your family involved, you want to get your community involved, and make sure that justice is observed by any means necessary. So keep your mind on tight, because one of the things I think I really feel is going on when it comes to these events, it almost seems to me that they're on a greater scale, when you're dealing with the element of systemic racism on a greater scale, that they're done intentionally, like they're done knowing that there's a camera watching that this event watching this event take place. They know that the camera's there. They're not oblivious to the camera. These people are people who know where the cameras are posted. They know how surveillance works. So they're aware that, hey, when we do this action, is going to be seen. It's not a secret. It's not going to be a mystery. Everybody is going to see it. So when you think about it that way, that would tell me that the acts are done deliberately, not just by the individuals themselves, but by whatever's behind uh, moving these individuals to behave and act in such a criminal way. That there's a bigger hand, a greater element going on. And I don't, I'm not intending to sound, like a conspiracy, but these are things that you can observe if you pay attention and keep on doing it and research. Yeah, really, and do your research and whatnot. Um, I think that if you do that, you might see the point that I'm trying to make here. And so in saying that, there's a psychological game being played against us as a people. When people are intentionally trying to let you see your own suffer uh, from criminal behavior, from a tyrannical or terrorist behavior, then that tells me that these things are done as a means to communicate something to the people who are observing, particularly the people that are being made the victim, or people um, who carry some of the qualities of the victim, as i.e., genetics, melanated, etc. There's a message being communicated to those of us who fit that description. Because a criminal act such as this, if there wasn't if there wasn't a desire for it to be known or seen, it I mean, again, we're dealing with people who are knowledgeable or informed about the surveillance in their area. They could have found numerous of places to do things in a hidden way, an unseen way, but they wanted it to be seen. They wanted this to be observed, and they wanted to get the reaction that they got. Never mind that the criminals themselves, they're criminals, but suppose they're the type of criminals more like a sacrificial lamb type thing, where you guys do this dirty work, we'll look we'll look out for you, on a turnaround, but um, we want this message to be put out there. And unfortunately, you know, we have ones that end up becoming the victims of these um, messages. You understand? These subliminal messages. So yeah, I definitely think we should be careful as we see and observe any of these videos, where we see ones that manifest your likeness, lives being unjustly taken. Don't ignore them. Don't forget, but just be careful, be mindful, and move in the best way that's appropriate in your own individual circumstance. So, because that's part of being safe, that's part of being mindful, and that's part of making sure, um, as we would say in the street, you don't get caught slipping in a way that allows the enemy, that old saying, don't give the enemy a stick to beat you with. And you want to move. If you Whatever you do in your life, you want to move with intelligence, with strategy, with awareness of your surroundings, with awareness of what what the stakes are. You understand? um I always tell you, do what you got to do in your life, but do it with intelligence, with awareness. Because one of the things I don't believe in ever implementing is cowardice, let alone hypocrisy. You understand? So, you know, be brave, be courageous, but be also intelligent. So with that said, let's continue into this book. And again, rest in peace to our late young brother Tyree Nichols. So continuing with this, mhm, again, this is page 41. We're gonna just start again at this chapter titled Sources of Organizational Power. And let me see something here. I'm not sure how well you guys are able to see that book, but anyway, it's on the page that we're reading. Um, Sources of Organizational Power. Horton and Hunt, 1968, correctly point out that the struggle for power often appears to be largely a contest between organizations. The power of highly organized groups is only checked by the opposition of other groups. These authors further delineate a number of sources of organizational power and some factors which affect group power: wealth, numbers, and specialized facilities. I see. Um, the obvious advantage of organization is that it brings together the efforts of a large number of people along with a great deal of wealth. When an organization represents millions, it has at least a potential claim to speak for a considerable fraction of the population. An organization can accumulate a large treasury from the dues and small contributions of many members. By joining together, even the poor and unknown may gain some of the attributes of power often attributed to the elites. The specialized facilities of the organization also increase its influence. Its individual members may make their views known through the activities of the organizational lobbyist, who is consistently in contact with those who make government decisions. Coordinated membership responses. The major source of organizational power lies in the ability to enable people, many people, planned concerted action to affect social decisions. Organizations can exert power through some form of coercion, either through force or through nonviolent coercion. B, the organization of blocks of voters or activists to influence government policies. Nonviolent coercion through economic pressure and occasional use of force. Factors affecting group power: size and organizational power. While large groups are not always effective, a large membership does give them a large power potential. Large organizations become highly active and overwhelmingly powerful when their vital interests are threatened. Cohesiveness and action orientation. Solidarity groups, which can unite their members in a given program, have a great advantage over loosely structured organizations, which must seek agreement through an education and decision process and may seldom be able to count on a concerted response from their members. Perceived role as a power factor. The members of an organization have an image of what kinds of activities are proper for the organization, and this image limits the areas in which it can exercise power. The power of an organization is also limited by the role assigned to it by the community. Thus, the public's perceived role of an organization or group limits its social power by determining the public support its actions will receive. Organizational alliances. Some of the advantages of large size may be: one, if smaller groups join in united action. This alliance is simplified when the organizations involved are led by interlocking directorates. Thus, an overlapping network of membership links the organizations together, making for easy cooperation and vesting control of many organizations in a very small group of persons. Are you having fun? Um, okay. Countervailing power, the opposite tendency of organized groups to oppose each other rather than to cooperate, has been given the name of countervailing power. Galbraith, 1952. This theory states that the exercise of great power to inspire the organization of opposing power usually keeps any one group from gaining complete control. Notice the footnotes as references or source references. And by the way, I will encourage you, if you're watching this live now, to like, share, and subscribe, as it will help, get the word out and, pass it around for brothers and sisters to build on and listen, those who may not even know that this live is going. Also, I would encourage you to show your appreciation, your love, your support to the platform, Soul Journey of Life. You see at the bottom corner of the screen the Cash App for your convenience to donate. And I say to you in advance, to those who would care to donate, Asante Sana, which translates into English as thank you very much. Um, Continuing. Social power of unorganized masses. The expression of mass power, Horton and Hunt, in addition to discussing the factors affecting group power, lists some of the means by which the unorganized masses can exert a decisive power over social developments. The power of mass markets. In a democratic society, the masses exert influence through their choices of what goods to buy, what papers to read, what television programs to watch, and so on. I can understand this in the video game realm, so to speak. When a company that's known to make a certain video game a certain way, a certain title, and let's say they have a series of these titles, the consumer, the buyer of the product, the what do you say, the fans of the product have certain expectations of what they expect to see when this product comes out, and if they don't see the uh the elements meet their expectations, they become upset. They protest against the company. Sometimes they'll even, express their indifference on those social media platforms. And the businesses, this is in the world of business, they see this. You understand? Because they want to be able to meet their customers' desires. Um, in a satisfactory way, but at the same time, they want to make a profit. Now, in the world of politics, activism, and things of that nature, is somewhat similar in that the people that have looked highly upon an organization or a body of influencers, they have things that they're expected. Like we're supporting you because you have the skills to do A, B, and C. We observe that in you. You know what I mean? Whether it be the gift of gab, whether it be influencing politicians, whether it be um, getting things done in the community. So whenever it comes to those elements, the people say, well, okay, it's like, for example, the complaints that many of us have when it comes to matters such as the brutality. There's people who claim themselves to be activists in the community, and we'll ask, like, well, where is so and so? Where is so and so at a time like this? Here's this situation, but this person who claims to be an activist is nowhere around. But suddenly, when there's something that they can, get some trending views off of, or you know, popularity from, that, and all of a sudden they show up. They show up when there is when the current can push them into, some type of status or position of popularity. Otherwise, when these elements aren't there, those so-called activists aren't. On the flip side, you have real activists who make real moves, and we end up finding them, either their lives get taken, or they become incarcerated, locked away, and even exiled in some cases. So, but when you see these type of people, like, let's say, for example, you've got an activist, and I'm not going to mention any names, who, um, not only is he very eloquent in his oratory, in his rhetoric, but he um, pushes hard the development of an educational system, a school program, an infrastructure, brick and mortar, the whole nine. So, that being known by the community, the supporters are going to have some expectations. They want to see results. They want to see that, hey, what you've been talking about, what you've been saying all this time, we want to see some fruit come from that. You understand? Especially if enough time has gone by, you're going to expect to see results. Within that is some room of forgiveness that the people would have, knowing that, hey, certain things take certain amount of time. You might encounter some hangups and issues along the way, but outside of those elements, certain elements the people would expect, because that's what their perspective of you, you know, has become. Like, okay, you are this activist and these are the things you do. Or you are this organization and these are the things we're expecting of you. And these are this is what, when we donate to you, this is what we expect you to do. Anyway, that's kind of what I get from that element, the power of mass markets in a democratic society. Influence the masses exert influence through their choices of what goods to buy, what papers to read, what television programs to watch, and so on. But in a competitive market, the consumer's preferences are rarely disregarded for very long, because they have to keep their, the people who are motivating and inspiring the masses. The masses have desires. They have things that are concerning, and they can't be ignored. If they're ignored long enough, you're not going to have these supporters much longer. I'll tell you, when you had the first black president, if you look at the timing, and this is to show you how strategic certain organizations or certain entities can be. If you look at the time that took place, it was right at the time where a lot of unrest started to um, rise up a bit more noticeably. And it just so happened at the same time, now all of a sudden, here's your first black president. But while that might have calmed down some of the crying, people started noticing, like, well, wait a minute. Here we had these complaints, we have these concerns, and none of them are being put on the checkoff list, let alone, dealt with in any kind of way. And so once again, people start realizing, wait a minute, every time we keep on supporting these individuals and hoping that somehow that they will represent our concerns, but in fact, they end up doing just the opposite. Sometimes blatantly in your face, sometimes in a way where you say, well, wait a minute, they just did everything that we were asking them to do for us, for this particular body of people who, you know, have a whole different agenda. Or sometimes they'll use our cry, they'll use our um, inspiration, our motivation, you understand, in our calling card, our banners, and they'll hide under that, join the ranks, and then take that energy and then form some other kind of organization using names, calling card names that were applied to us or applied to something that we were concerned with. Hijack that, and now next thing you know, they ride off of the wealth and support of the and they end up making their own movement as a result. We found that happened with an organization known as Black Lives Matters. Understand? And if you, I believe, if you do the research, you'll find out more about why that is so. Why that is an example of an organization who hijacked the um, hearts and minds of a people and the suffering that they were going through and utilize that for an entirely unrelated agenda. And they tried to make that agenda as if it was somehow associated or connected or the same, just another form of that type of suffering. It's like, for example, saying that what I like is the same as what I am, because that's kind of that's what they did pretty much. Here is a complaint of us losing our lives because of what we are by nature, what the Most High designed us to be by nature. Genetically, we're talking about ancestrally, from generation to generation, we are the melanated peoples, and yet there's a body of people who like to compare that with their desires and say, well, we're being killed because of our desires, or we're being oppressed because of what we desire. They're saying it in other words, but that's still the sum of their position. And see, we're much like you, so we should join your ranks and ride off of the wave of what you're doing, and in so doing, milk your supporters for our gain, and in continuing, in so doing, give you nothing back. See, it might even be much more mildly appreciated if there was something given back, like, okay, you've rode this ride with us for whatever your cry is. It's not related to us in any way, but hey, you looked out for us in the end. You looked out for it. We see some of the rewards that you've reaped coming back to us. But that's not what happened. That's not what happens. They took that power, pushed us to the side, and utilized it for their own aims. And unfortunately, I'm going to say that I believe that those aims were of an abominable sort. You understand? Fulfilling or pushing an abominable agenda. But that's, each to their own, as my mother would say. Peace and blessings. Continuing the reading. Mass veto power through non-corporation. Some decisions can become effective only through mass corporation. Wherever a decision cannot be effective without mass corporation, the veto power of the masses must be considered. The masses, through non-cooperation, example, passive resistance, may exert power to bring about change. You can't move if you don't have the people's support. And people only accept so many mind games. There's only so much of the flowery talk that people will buy. There's only so much of the hype and pomp and confetti that people will dance along with before they start saying, wait a minute, we're just not getting anywhere with this. There's only so much. And the thing is, the few are aware of this, whether they are of a well-meaning sort or otherwise. They're aware that, hey, this is the way the human mind operates. And oftentimes, unfortunately, for many of us, especially in our time, they know when to try to be like 12 steps ahead. You understand? And so by the time you realize where the smoke is coming from, they done moved the building where the fire has been. And and here we are again. Like right now, we're in a time where all over we're trying to revitalize in the minds of many melanated brothers and sisters, black brothers and sisters, the need, the importance of unification. And all of these elements again to bring, to manifest the proper inspiration in the hearts and minds. And if you think back in like the 70s, the 60s, the aggressive approach that many of those who came before us manifested, and the outcomes were hardcore. So much that the powers that be knew they had to take these guys out. They knew they had to take the leaders of some of these movements out because they knew that they were being effective. They were getting the job done. Khalid Muhammad, he was getting the job done. You understand? So they knew they had to they had to do something about this because that was too much like right. And so here we are once again, with movements, rising up, you know, the desire to make a difference, the desire to put an end to the brutality, put an end to the systemic racism, obtain self-determination, obtain liberation, obtain reparations, all these things. With all these elements here, it gives a lot of fuel for organizations to ride off of, whether they be good organizations or not. It gives them fuel to ride off of. And because this is the time, this is the season, if you would, ripe for this type of scenario. And so if you pay attention, all kinds of bodies are milking off. Look on YouTube, you see people of other races, all of a sudden they've got something to say. All of a sudden they're riding the wave of, I feel for the black people. You see this Caucasian individual, they've got something to say. Even I'm not talking about the people who are speaking against us. I'm talking about those who are all of a sudden supporters. And that doesn't, I'm not going to say they don't mean well or they don't have ill intentions, but I'm just noticing how different bodies of people are riding this wave of, being interested in black equality. And I say we must be careful with who we identify with out of this, especially when it comes from other people who are not melanated, but even with people who are, because some are simply milking the moment. They know that you will dive in on, powerful rhetoric. You understand? They know that you will, the money will flow. You understand? You know, that's why in most cases, the people who are truly authentic, it tends to be harder for them. Why? Because often the real that they're speaking, many people don't really want to recognize. They don't want to really accept what's necessary and what the true solutions are to our problem. They don't want to accept that. They want to, there's got to be some soft cotton ball way or approach to get this done. Somebody's got to float out of the clouds for this solution to work. But they're not willing to listen to the brothers and sisters, boots on the ground brothers and sisters who are telling you what the true solutions are. And by the time they're able to listen to these brothers and sisters, they're either locked away or their lives have been taken. And then they realize, oh, this brother was talking the real. This brother was spitting the hawk, spitting the truth. Well, he's dead now, or he's exiled now, or he's locked away now. When you had the chance to put the 100%, support behind him, you were a no-show. You were a no-show. Instead, you got draped off by these soft cotton ball groups that later on you find out they didn't even have you in mind. You were just, a one-night stand to be used and tossed to the side. They got what they want. Now they're flying high, full of wealth, living in fancy houses and everything. Black Lives Matter. What are you talking about? They don't even know. They don't even know what their movement was about anymore. It's now. I mean, I'm just saying. So it's real, family. It's real when it comes to power in this way. Social power of unorganized masses. Understand that people of intelligent, both those well-meaning and not well-meaning, see this. If any of you deal with business economics, you know exactly what I'm talking about here, because it's no different than any other kind of market where an entrepreneur sees a niche to fit into, and once they see that niche, there's a market in this, they tap into that niche and start benefiting. Especially if it's a lucrative niche. And that's sad, because it means that, on one level, people want us to suffer because it gives them something to bank on. Come on, this is it properly. They want us to suffer because it gives them something to bank on. They get rich off of our suffering. Moments like this, there's some organization somewhere. There's those that mean well, but there's some organization somewhere that is guaranteed to pop up and talk about the Tyree Nichols event, because they know that somehow they will be able to reap something beneficial off of the suffering of an innocent person. Somewhere, somebody's going to, some of these organizations are going to be like that. You're going to have real people who recognize and see the tyranny, the act of tyranny that took place, the terrorist act that took place. But we are in a time where ever more people are thirsty, they're greedy, they're treacherously deceptive. That is no wonder that many of us become so suspicious when real stands in front of your face. You understand? Boots on the ground, and you like, well, you must be an agent, or you must be, especially if they start succeeding, especially when real shows signs of or grades of success. Or you must be something, you must be this person or that person. You must be up to no good. There must be something behind that. Or we can't even recognize the different authenticity in fiction. So these are some harsh times. And all the same, it doesn't take anything away from the necessity of unity. You're taking, put this back on. Are you ready for bed? Is that what you're saying? You want bed? You want to go to bed? May I go to my room, please? Okay. I'm going to take a break because somebody is sleepy and ready for bed. So with that in mind, I'm going to respond accordingly. I just want you to keep in mind this right here. Chess moves, family, not checkers, as one staunch person, one staunch brother would put it. I'll be right back, and in the meantime, stay tight and enjoy this song. My bad. I thought the shop was closed. I was just like, hey, this is my work. What's this right here? Hold on. Hey, got an idea. Check this out. What are you waiting for? There you go. The fees and flows for them with the head still attached to their shoulders
first. I make amends for what I failed to see until I got a little older. Versatility is a necessity in today's business. Take that as a proverb. You may think it's awkward, but it's really just what I observe. Never mind whatever you heard. I'm Questman, so much flow in sync with the flight of a carnivorous bird. I get high off the knowledge of how to spin around my myrrh. Kaaba, Allahu Akbar, blessed when I honor my mama and papa. Disrespect them and it's you I clobber. Aha! Just when you thought all those rainy days would keep me waited, I rise up off the ground like one snapped out of being medically sedated. I salute the melanated. I make it a habit of keep on loving me, so I'm never bothered by the hatred. You see the frames, but I'm that nerd that's naughty by nature. Ice water vapor, flight of the navigator. Put that on paper, sign right there. I tickle the feminine in the wind, tasting candy coated raindrops enough to make your head spin. Brother, this is not a ring you really want to get in. Really? I'm a wordsmith, making nerves twitch. After you heard this, you might just want to roll another. Hold up, as I spit for the righteous, yeah, you might need to pass that as we battle the current crisis. I see red and blue lights in the streets. I bow my head because the fallen carry the same blood my heart beats. Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down. Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down.
Spin that pluralistic, high quality gold subtone submission. The flow sadistic, call me the wordsmith. Key to the untold stories that bring your passion to glory. Educating the sun, moon, and youth. A universal which introduces logic and nice ideologies. Flying on philosophies, carrying the baby of a dying breed. Correlating ancestors to restore the community. Praying on a cloud, listening on my knees, soaring on cosmic energies. To reverse the mindset of the ignorant, building abundance and breaking down generational curses. As I smirk, giving you positive hurt. Rebuking the vapor that we breathe in and calibrates our mental to damage, disfigure, disturb that thought process, sorting out the weak. Seeking to kill, still in the destroy. The blessings made on a stone of the exhilarating cake that celebrates the victory set out for the world. Exhilarate prosperity.
Hold it down, UNIFY. Hold it down. Hold it down, UNIFY.
Gathering my collectiveness. Nickel B.
Yes, indeed. Hold it down, family. We got to hold it down. All right. Now that everybody's in bed and asleep, I should be able to continue this without too many interruptions. I believe the point that I'm trying to make here is that, when we're talking about the nature of this social power, you understand, you want to look at it on all sides, both that which is in our interest, in our favor, and in the same token, that which is opposing us or against us. You understand? Just as well as, you have the righteous who move righteously, you also have the wicked who move ever so wickedly. Let's continue. Direct political power of the masses. Who holds the reins of power in our society? No single group, for power is of several kinds and is very diffused among many groups. The paradox of power in the 20th century is that although our society is largely controlled by highly organized groups dominated by an elite leadership, this leadership may be blocked by the actions of normally unorganized and apathetic masses of men whose basic attitudes towards life are often sharply different from those of the influentials who normally set the pace. Even this pace setting function of the elite is restricted by the need to draw in the participation of the masses as consumers, workers, and participants. The masses may use the elite's need for their support and participation as leverage for getting the elite to act in their interest. It's very important to understand, especially for you brothers and sisters who are true about the concept of unification. You must realize that it's not just going to be people of your ideology that will be a part of this unity. You understand? You may have to be able to identify with people who are quite different from you in certain perspectives. I'm not talking about anything that would be um, demeaning to human nature, but I'm talking about, people that simply have um, other views that hold just as much weight in this world. Um, you know, Sometimes we get this notion that, one group, if we're part of one group, that whatever that group thinks is law, is fact, and there's nothing else that could go against it. This is the only perspective that the world can know, and this is all there is. And we're suffering from some of that now. When it comes to our ethnicity. On the surface, some of us have no problem using the calling card black. Some like to use the term melanated. But then when you break this down, you get different factions that associate with certain cultures, certain religious cultures, certain uh, uh, cultures based upon regions. You understand? And they make this, and this is not to say that what their perspective are as far as their source, their origin is not true, but it causes us to form division. You understand? With people whose cause is fundamentally the same as our own. People who are rising up, standing up against the same threat, and so we end up weakening ourselves artificially in this way. And as I was saying, there are corrupt movers as well, wicked movers as well, and they see this. They know that these divisions exist. They know the types of divisions that we have amongst ourselves, and it gives them another opportunity to benefit and bank. Because they know that if they say, oh, there's this division, well, what group can we covertly finance or support and give it more of recognition to do what it does as it oppresses another group that's, you know that has a different ideology. And so next thing you know, you have this division. So my point is that I'm saying here is understand that it's not hard for the devil to get into your ranks where you don't readily perceive them to be, and make moves, make actions that you think are in your favor because they're of your ranks, when in fact is more hazardous, more dangerous, more treacherous, more uh in aiding to our problem, not our solution. Continuing the book, to Horton and Hunt's list, we have added our one of our own, which follows: breaking the habit of obedience. The social order and social power relations of a society depend on the habit of obedience of a critical mass of its members. To be viable and stable, social systems consisting of dynamically structured power relations between persons and groups, require conventionalized responses to authority, other social symbols and signals. If a critical mass of society's members fail to emit the appropriate behavior of or responses, the social system tends to tends towards destabilization and may eventually bring about its breakdown. Most often, the institutional or social chain of command is not perceived um, by those subject to it as coercive and as an expression of dominance by a particular social class for which the command structure is designed to undemocratically benefit. The chain of command or structure is generally perceived by those who benefit from it least, or who are oppressed by it, as functionally necessary. And we got a very uh, good example of this if you go back to the beginning of this particular live. You understand, when you're dealing with police brutality and things of that nature. We understand that there's people in positions of authority who are misusing and abusing their authority. Um, By the way, let me pause just for a second. I want to put into the chat, as I like to do, this link so that if there be any brother or sister who wants to share some thoughts about related to the matter at hand, what we're reading, um, there's the link. You know, we can always break bread, but let's be mindful. This is Soul Journey of Life, conscious Black social media, so we like to be respectful and well with our choice of words, righteous with our choice of words. Continuing, in this instance, compliant behavior, even when such behavior perpetuates gross iniquities, is seen as morally compelling, as right and proper in and of itself. As Parenti argues, obedience is in such cases is not felt as a submission to the interest of the powerful, but as proper constructive behavior of a person um, who freely accepts responsibilities. It is not uncommon for people to make a virtue of the necessities they face. In that way, are their life situations made more bearable for them. Of interest to us is the function of such propensities for organizational control. This attitude of obedience disseminated among subordinates in any institutional structure or within the entire society becomes a social norm, acting as both an internalized and externalized and internalized force for compliance upon the individual. Emphasis added. In an unjust social order, an order where one group abusively dominates another, as we're talking about, the habit of obedience in the subordinate or abused groups functions to maintain that order. See, as I'm saying to you earlier, these things are being done in clear view of surveillance, which like I said, which seems to suggest that these things are done blatantly, intentionally, with the intended purpose of you seeing this, of you seeing these crimes happen. They want you to see this happen because they want you to be brought into uh, compliance through some kind of fear. So, amongst other things, that's just one part of the issue. So continuing, this situation can only be changed by the destabilization and breakdown of the unjust social order. As we keep shouting out, defund the police, defund the police. That is a calling because ideally by doing this, you reduce the ability of these people to have corrupt power over an oppressed people. Defund the police. Obviously, the opposite, funding the police, would increase their ability to have the capacity. Of course, we're going to say that not everybody's corrupt, but we're talking about having the capacity, having the potential to be corrupt. When you reduce the funding, you reduce the potential to be corrupt because you will no longer have the resources at your disposal to do just whatever you will. The more resources you have, you understand, including human resources, the more possibility you have for acts of corruption to take place because not everybody means well. You understand? And when you're dealing with an infrastructure that's built on systemic racism, and this infrastructure is everything in your society will bear witness to that. Go down to any of your inner cities and look at the infrastructure there, and you will see everything telling you the essential nature of what this society is built on. So it makes sense that one of the shouts would be to defund the police. So again, this situation can only be changed by destabilizing and breakdown of the unjust social order, i.e., by radically reorganizing its structure of power relations. Imagine if not only this corrupt policing structure was defunded, but reorganized in a way that represented our interests as opposed to being contrary to our interests. That was done in a that was done in a way where the idea of self-policing, meaning we police our own communities, we police our own neighborhoods, knowing our people well, knowing our neighbors well, knowing the persons who are put in this position of authority well. It makes it so that they can be held to account because we know who you are. We know what I'm saying by held to account, meaning you can be chastised, you can be condemned and corrected. Like, look, you are out of place, you're out of line. What are you doing? We know your grandparents, we know your cousin. My son's married to your daughter. Why are you doing this to your nephew? You understand? It's a different element when there's a relationship, when there's something that connects a person in authority with the people they're placed in authority over, versus a total stranger who more likely than not tends to be affiliated or a part of a design that's not in our favor as melanated black brothers and sisters. Not in our favor. I'm just calling it how it is. And this can only be brought about. This can only be bought. I think he meant brought about by subordinate groups' refusal to comply with the demands of the dominant group. The compliance with which by the subordinate groups are often responsible for a crucial to maintaining the onerous social order in the first place. You saw, those of you who were able to see the footage of the young late Tyree Nichols, the effects of police brutality, tyrannical behavior, terrorist actions manifesting before your eyes. And again, it's clear that one of the objectives that's being suggested is to create mass fear in the population, in the black melanated population. Like, look, we did this to you. There's nothing you can do about it but cry and complain and post comments and suggestions and comments and statements on social media. You won't do nothing more than that. We will be able to do this to you and do this to you and beat you and kill you and hurt you and hurt you and hurt you. And the only thing you're going to do to us back is cry, complain, wave banners, and then eventually hug us at the end of the day and ask everybody to get along with us. That's based upon the patterns that are going on. That's a clear, a message, feedback from that we could do whatever we want. We've got this badge on. We can beat you senseless no matter what you do. You can be perfectly still, perfectly compliant, perfectly obedient. We can beat you senseless, take your life. It doesn't matter. You guys aren't going to be able to do anything about it, no matter what we do. And even if the few get fired, removed, there's still others that fill in their place. And give it time, it will repeat again until the so-called subordinate group must break its habits of obedience and engage in civil disobedience. Says it right here in page 44. Because at some point, one person, two person, three person, four, that's one thing. But when you end up with a whole community of people who say, look, we're not listening to you. You're going to arrest an entire city? You're going to put an entire city in jail? You're going to lock an entire city up? Because if you approach it that way, you know that you're going to expose the wickedness that your hand is putting forth. You're going to expose yourself. That's why you got to pluck them off bit at a time, here, there, and target the people that you might perceive as maybe they might have some mental issues, or maybe they might have some elements of suffering in some way. It's clear that the interest of the well-being of the individual is not at heart when you have people who weigh numbers of people who weigh twice the amount the individual is weighing. Well, it's clear that they're overpowered, they're overbearing, that there's no reason for the excessive use of force. So at some point, shalom, peace and blessings. At some point, the so-called subordinate group must break its habits of obedience and engage in civil disobedience. Continuing reading here. It was primarily through civil disobedience that Gandhi broke the social order of British colonialism in India, and Martin Luther King Jr. radically transformed the social order of the southern United States. Civil disobedience is one of the primary means by which the masses of the oppressed may successfully oppose the power of a dominant oligarchy. Because one of the things that's going to reveal is their hypocrisy, is going to reveal their tyranny, is going to reveal their hatred, and make it hard for them to politically talk their way out of it. Because, like, look, this is what you're doing. You can say whatever you want up here on this microphone as you're running for president, running for Congress, running for Senate, running for whatever you're running for, but this is what we're seeing. This is what you are encouraging to happen. And I'm going to even say allow, because if you aren't allowing it, then you would put the things into play that would cause this not to be able to happen in the first place. If you really had our interest at heart, if systemic racism did not actually exist, as some of you like to suggest. But since there is systemic racism, the elements that be, the powers that be, have certain things designed, moved in the way that they are, and it's not in our interest. It's not in our interest. That's why you're going to always more likely see the encounters with the melanated, the black brothers and sisters, being one of hostility, especially when there's a message that needs to be instilled into the minds of the many, of the masses. So again, civil disobedience is one of the primary means by which the masses of the oppressed may successfully oppose the power of a dominant oligarchy. Breaking the habit of obedience on the part of the oppressed may not only include the refusal to cooperate with unjust laws, but may include boycotting and refusal to consume certain goods and services sold by the dominant group, disrupting the social and behavioral routines of machinery which maintain the operations of the dominant social order, and by devaluing the commercial and cultural output, products, and values of the dominant group. Sometimes social disruption is the only expression of social power left to the masses. Of course, such action is just discussed, may be adjunctively supported by petition and letter writing campaigns, political demonstrations, marches, protests, and pickets. And in this particular day and age, we know how well that's going. We know how that well that's functioning. But we're in a time where at this point we could honestly say, like, look, I don't know what you're going to do to me. I don't trust you. I fear for my life, because lately, as I've been observing, you've been taking the lives of ones that look like me. So I don't know what you're going to do, with all due respect, but I don't know whether to comply or not, because I've seen whether compliance brings me danger, and non-compliance brings me danger. So I'm caught in a rock and a hard place, sir or ma'am. So what can I realistically do given the stakes as a black melanated brother or sister? What's realistic? What's the realistic option for me to do? Compliance, you die. Non-compliance, you die. Or you still get hemmed up. Either way it goes, in some way. Because otherwise, if we, look at these moments like just a passing moment in time, they're not going to stop. They're not going to cease to be. They're not going to cease to be until something is done, until something has happened. And I'm not saying something from people we're pandering to, but something from amongst our own has to happen. Whatever that be, the people have to move as one. Something must take place that will bring this to an end. Your vote, you won't be able to vote this away. You see how well that's working out, because the people that are constantly put before you to vote for are never going to have this interest. There might be a little nugget somewhere, an illusionary idea that something is meaningful to you, but at the end of the day, it won't be true. It'll be something fantastical, something fictional, something like a bribery. Like, look, that looks like it means you on the surface. See, here's a black person. He's in a position of high authority. We're not racist. You see, you could be just like him. Yeah, maybe I could be just like him, but that don't mean I'm able to do anything just like him. These are, the art of deception, family. The art of deception. I mean, you can wait for death to knock on your door. And I know people say, well, I'm going to die. But look, why pave the way? Why make it easy for the enemy to take you out? Why pave the way? Why pretend like the matter isn't real? And then when it knocks on your door, now all of a sudden it's real, and now you've got something to cry about. But when when the matter came to do things, like he said, there's multiple financial ways. Defund the police. If the police aren't acting properly, defund the police. Why would anybody think anything differently? Why would that not be the way to go when it comes to where your money is going? And if anything, that would expose the people in your community who aren't keeping it real. Like, wait a minute, how here we are not funding this institution any longer, but somehow they're still in power. Somehow they're still operating fully functional, as if not a dime was taken out of their safe. The whole community has to operate as one. It has to be an entire community action that, look, this community, no longer will this institution be able to operate here. We are going to establish our own to operate amongst ourselves and police ourselves and monitor and check ourselves. We no longer need your services. Thank you very much. I mean, those of you who know, how politics works, how all these things work, I mean, this should be a no-brainer. Ethnic solidarity and power. Page 45. Most often, a group is formed based on the sharing among its members of a common history, set of values, fate, plight, or on their consciousness of a shared collective identity. Example, social economic class, political or social category, or ethnicity. And for us, many of us, all of that is the case. These shared factors form the basis for the construction of the group solidarity, and the use of solidarity to generate and exercise social power. The reason why, for example, reading this very book is so important, and reading and building and having these type of presentations is so important, because it means that all the people that are constantly listening in and taking in, it starts to synchronize our way of thinking, so that our thinking tends to be more alike. Maybe not exact or identical, but we would be on, so to speak, no pun intended, on the same page. We'd be on the same page. We'd be, because we would know where the concepts are deriving from, because we talked about it. We built on it. We agreed upon it. These shared factors form the basis for the construction of a group solidarity and the use of solidarity to generate and exercise social power. With regard to solidarity and its relation to group power, Galbraith makes the very important observation that an organization wins submission to its purpose outside the organization only as it wins submission within. The strength and reliability of its external power depend on the depth and certainty of internal submission. He further notes that the power of an organization depends on association with, access to, and application of other forms and sources of power. There is an interesting circulatory circularity here in that an organization is strong to the degree that it has effective access to certain important forms of power, and the most effective way of gaining access to certain forms of power is through organization. The achievement of group solidarity and organization results from the mobilization of previously disunited individuals in order to create or activate power they may already have possessed but could not employ or wield due to the absence of will and of facilitating group ideology. This is what we're suffering. That read that paragraph again and again and again until until you snap out of it, and it breaks through, because that's the disease that we suffer right now. That's the disease that we suffer right now. We have an abundance of power right now, but it's not able to manifest, because if I'm not speaking with your title, or this group doesn't bear this title or this label or principle concept or whatever, we will not support one another. We won't show no love. We won't show no collaboration, no alliance. If even suppose someone has this in principle the same desire. Suppose an organization has the same desire for liberation, self-determination, standing up for the rights of the melanated. The only difference was your ideologies, or your maybe certain elements of the ideology was not the same. What do? You say, "Oh, well, okay, I'm sorry, but since you don't say la ilaha illallah, so we can't be down with you, or you don't say that you don't say shalom, so we can't be down with you, or you don't say hotep, so we can't be down with you." But yet they're interested in resisting the same tyranny, the same mistreatment, the same brutality that you're interested in, and maybe even have similar strategies of how to go about getting that achieved. But simply because they don't have that choice word that you favor on their tongue, they're not worthy of your alliance. They're not worthy of your alliance. You're too holy for that. You're too holy for this to be the case. You're too righteous. I would say that you're not righteous at all, if that isn't the mindset. Again, I understand that we have certain values that you know cannot be infringed, that cannot be interrupted. But I would suggest that something of this nature of what we're talking about here, I couldn't see how that would be opposed to the interests of any of us. You understand? I don't see how that could ever be opposed unless, like I said, I could understand if there were abominable behaviors that you were shunning, that you were, you know, pointing out. But I would even suggest that even these type of elements, that you wait until the job is done to clean up the house. Let's purchase, own, and possess the house first. Then we could look inside and see what the problems are that need to be fixed. But we're not going to get anywhere if we don't even have our pocketbook, our wallet consolidated with its resources, is funding to be able to achieve that goal. We won't get anywhere. You can march all you want. We could, be in sync and foul, lined up and everything. We're not going to get anywhere without, this being understood. I believe in the God of unity, the God of Tawheed. Ahad means oneness, unity. You understand? And so for me, the things that we can come to terms with, we start there. Where can we come to common terms with? Let's start there and be unified in the things in which which we are on common terms with. Long enough to get the job done. Have your arguments, debates, whatever you want. Who's right, who's wrong, but do that once the house is built up. Once we can stand out, stand inside and be free from the rain, from the drama, where the tyrant now has to knock on our door because they can't just pick us off anymore, because we're now a unified, functioning body, nation of people. But as long as you're broken up, divided, they can keep picking you off and picking you off and picking you off, because there's no one there's no one, the resources needed to protect that from happening are not unified enough. Not unified enough. Just calling it how I see it. So let's see here. Yeah, there is an interesting circulatory. Oh yeah, okay. I'm just making sure I read that part. So the achievement of group solidarity and organization results from the mobilization of previously. This is the passage I was trying to emphasize. Previously disunited individuals in order to create or activate power they may already have possessed, but could not employ or wield due to the absence of will and a facilitating group ideology. We have to have a common thing that we all can agree on without offending one another. Some of the things only you accept, but he doesn't, she doesn't. So what do you do? But yet, at the end of the day, like I said, they're standing there they came there, they're on the scene for the same cause. What do you do? This is human resources right here you're talking about. These are manifestations of the power that, if it was all allied together, it would get the job done. I'm not talking about the people who are completely contrary to any of this whatsoever. I'm talking about all those who are standing up with the same cry. With the same cry from the same type of pain. It may be cogently argued that it is the will of immigrant groups, such as the Koreans, combined with their ideology of racial or ethnic solidarity expressed via appropriate social economic organizations, which permits them and other ethnic groups through possessing fewer human and material resources and numbers to achieve greater economic prominence and well-being, and ultimately greater power than Black Americans. In fact, a good deal of their economic power and their increasing political power will be gained through their economic exploitation of African Americans. Social organizational differences between Black Americans and these groups are the factors most responsible for the growing economic and political power differential between certain immigrant groups and Black Americans, in spite of the fact that Blacks possess the greater potential for social, economic, and political power. I'm asking you, family, imagine if Tyree Nichols, the late Tyree Nichols, rest in peace, was Korean or Palestinian. Imagine if when we saw this report, it wasn't a Black American, but a Korean. How do you think the news would report? How do you think that would have been dealt with? What do you think the response that it would have been on day one? Here it is, a Korean man just being brutalized by law enforcement. What do you think the Korean community would have done to that situation? How do you think they would have responded here and abroad? What would have been the response? Got to be honest. I'm just saying, because that's what's missing here. If you will give an honest answer to that equation, that is what is the answer here. Put any other ethnic group, notable ethnic group in that scenario, especially those of notable status in this society. Put them in that, exchange them instead of Tyree Nichols, Lao Tzu, I don't know, some other kind of name, Jamie Lee. If Jamie Lee was the one that we see this video about, how would the Asian community deal with that situation? What would have been the minute that's shown on live news, what's the next move? What would have been the next move? And if you're being honest, then you see what's missing amongst us. Because it should be the same, if not better. It should be the same move, if not even better than that. Because as it says at the bottom here, social organizational differences between Black Americans and these groups are the factors most responsible for the growing economic and political power differential between certain immigrant groups, Asians, Koreans, Palestinians, and Black Americans, in spite of the fact that Blacks possess the greater potential for social, economic, and political power. In spite of all that, all this power welled up amongst us, but we're too good to collaborate with one another and ally ourselves with one another long enough to be effective, long enough for it to be sustainable. I'm just looking here. 6:55. Yeah. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you are benefiting from the listening to this live on Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black Social Media, with your brother Questman, aka Abdul Wadud. Also, I highly recommend that you show some love through the form of donating. The Cashapp is right there. The LightDome, $ the LightDome. It will definitely be appreciated. Asante Sana in advance. And it does help make these things possible, and make this something that it helps. It helps in so many ways, in all the things when it comes to doing things like this, doing things within the community, you name it. just thinking here. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. Ethnic and class resources, race ideology, and exploitability of Black Americans. Look at that title right there, family. Ethnic and class resources, race ideology, and in the exploitability of Black Americans. Because they see, like I said, the enemy, and even and not just enemies, but people who are themselves just trying to survive and make ends meet. They see the lucrative uh, elements amongst us. They see the bankability through our crises. They see it. It's not. It's hidden to you. It's not hidden to everyone else. Everyone else that's paying attention notices the drama. They might see it at a different angle or call it by a different name, but they see that something's going on. Some of them might not even be willing to call it for what it is because it wouldn't be in their interest. And they might not even be too concerned because they're going to be more concerned for their own, which we should be demonstrating similar features, being more concerned of our own and then looking across the street to see what's going on over there, if business can be done or whatnot. But first, how are things at home? How are things at home? How are things in our own ethnicity? Because right now we are being taken advantage of in mass scale, family. We're being taken advantage of like never before, here and abroad. Here and abroad, we're being taken advantage of like never before. Our emotions, our desires, our amusements, our entertainments, our intelligence, you name it. People are milking and milking and milking and stripping and ripping all of this from us, while at the same time draping us up so much, draping us away so that we don't even perceive that it's happening until we're dead and gone, until we're broken up even more than the way than the grade that we're broken up right now. Ethnic and class resources, race, ideology, and exploitability of Black Americans. In the sections to follow, we will discuss how ethnicity and organization based on ethnicity are utilized as sources of power in order to develop ethnically based economic power resources. That is, ethnic groups such as the Asians have utilized their immigrant status, the ethnic solidarity demanded by that status, and their ethnic resources to systemically develop economic enterprise and social power. The active combination of these factors by immigrant groups has been and is employed to fuel the growth and development of what Light and Bonasik 1988 referred to as immigrant entrepreneurship, and more effectively, ethnic entrepreneurship. They define these factors in the following ways. And by the way, see, the thing is, we suffer from this disease that you might call disbelief in recognizing ourselves. We don't believe that we are who we are. And so a lot of our argument, a lot of our battle is believing that if we believe that we are who we are, we will be unified with those who are also who we are. But there are those of us who will look in the mirror and see you looking back at them because you are their image. But in their mind, you're somebody else. You're not them. You're not their concern. What do you have to do with them? That's your problem. That's a your problem thing they would express. What does that have to do with me? They see this brother being brutalized, a crime against humanity being committed upon Brother Tyree Nichols. Rest in peace. But there are those who look at that and say, well, what does that have to do with me? Like I said, imagine if that was one of these Asian groups or other immigrant groups, and they saw that same situation while they're sitting there drinking their chai, eating their lo mein chow, whatever it's called, how do you think they would have responded? They would not have finished that meal. They would not have, that meal would not have been finished. Because when they look at this, when they see this, they see their own. They don't have this disease. That's their own. That's them being beaten down right there. You see it. You see a stranger. You see somebody that was none of my business. Oh, that's him. That's him. That was on him. And then you side with some of these imposters who are like, well, you should have complied. He should have just complied. And you side with these idiots because you don't see that's you right there. We're the only group of people on this earth suffering from this in such a great way, in such a magnificent way. Let's see what they say. Let's see how they define these factors. They define these factors in the following way. Immigrant entrepreneurship means self-employment within, listen closely. I mean, I haven't even read the whole context yet, and I'm already seeing where it's going. Immigrant entrepreneurship means self-employment within the immigrant group at a rate much in excess of the general rate. Ethnic entrepreneurship denotes ethnic minority specialization in self-employment without, however, imposing the requirement of foreign-born origin. When you go to, I mean, you see some Asian restaurants where a brother or two might be at the grill or something. You might see one or something like that. I've seen a few here. I've seen a few in New York. But who's running the business? Who's operating? So whoever's running the business, that's the one that's concerned with the money, the cash flow, and that's going back to his people. That's going back to their own. You can work up there at the grill and at the cashier because we can pay you such and such amount and save a few dollars or whatever. Maybe even get the any stigma of racial discrimination. So when the inspectors come in our restaurant, they don't go, oh, well, you guys are discriminating. No, we're not. We got the black guy running up there at the cashier. But in most cases, in some restaurants, you won't even see that because nobody's it's not brought up. Nobody's concerned that, hey, a black guy isn't working at Hunan Express. Like, so what? I don't want to work at Hunan Express. But what I'm saying here is, you see the way they move. Peep game, as they say. Look at how they move. They're going to open up their enterprises, their businesses. Family, come on in. Even I've seen companies where even if Junior don't even know what the heck is going on, how to do it, they still put him in a. You get on the grill. You'll learn along the way. Sarah, help Billy out. On that grill. You don't know what he's doing. You won't know that because all you know is you're at the front looking at the menu. You don't know that Billy don't know. It's not even all the way cooked. It's because Billy don't know what the heck he's doing. But he's part of the family, so they try to keep it in the family. If Billy for some reason can't get then they might hire you, and you think that you fit, you're in somehow. But no, they just needed to fill in that gap, and they were saving a few dollars. Man, but at the end of the day, it's all in the family for them. It's all in the family for them. They're going to look out for their family. They're going to look out for their own. They're going to look out for their own. They're going to look out for their own. Must be nice. If ever there was something that I envy from other people, it would be that alone. That's it. And that's why on the same note, when it comes to me seeing that amongst my own people, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to see authentic melanated unity where these stigmas and these little indifferences are put in the back. Like, look, man, we're out here to grill. I don't know, whatever your argument is, keep that at home. Keep that at wherever you from. But here we got the grill out. What, man? Give this man a cold one, man. Give this brother a cold one. He thirsty. You need to cool down. He's all heated up over here. Cool him down. I'm just saying, it's a whole different ballgame when we're unified. Whole different ballgame. When you see real, true, authentic unity, a beautiful thing. Strong. It's beautiful to walk in. I go into this grocery store, black owned. First thing I ask is this black owned? Because I'm like, man, this kind of feel different in here. As the owner, as the manager, is this black owned? Yeah, it's black owned. Okay, let me go ahead and fill my grocery cart up. Because I feel like I feel a sense of honor. You understand? It's like I'm putting money into my own. You understand? My own family. Even if they weren't, on that level, for me, my intention is to represent what I stand for. That's my intention. Some people, who like to tout how religious they are or whatnot. Well, our book says, save yourself and your family from the fire of hell. What do you mean by family? Your family is not just your immediate mother, father, brother, sister, but isn't your cousin also your family? Isn't your uncles and aunts also your family? What about their brothers and sisters and children? Are they part of your family? What about their uncles, aunts, brothers, and sisters? Are they a part of your family? If I keep going, you have a whole city we're talking about. Are they not a part of your family? You'd be surprised if you go up some of these lineages. If people, especially you guys, brothers and sisters who dig the DNA testing and all that, you'd be surprised at how you end up finding somebody on your Facebook friends or on your IG, Instagram list that's family. Like, oh man, that's your third cousin right there. That means somewhere in the long line you got a common grandparent. Family, folks, family. I'm just saying. I'm emphasizing this because we like to act like we make these silly excuses. And like I said in one live, many hypocritical people, they make these excuses so that they don't have to move. They use it as justification of reasons not to move, not to do, not to act, not to be about it. Well, see, because it's not even really, I don't know him. But then at the same time, when somebody's got something they want, all of a sudden, now oh yeah, man, I used to know you back in the days. We went to school together. Weren't you in Mrs. So-and-so's class? Yeah. Come on, can you pass that along? Next thing you know, they cool and homies and friends like that, like they've been knowing each other all their life. But when it comes to making a difference, when it matters, all of a sudden, all these excuses come out of why you don't know this person, why it's their business. They don't have nothing to do with you now. I call that hypocrisy. Light and Bonisic argue that the entrepreneurship of immigrant groups is explained by their resources. These resources are used by various ethnic groups to support the firms owned by their co-ethnics to sustain their competitive position and competitive edge. Listen to that. Competitive position, this structure that they have makes them competitive. Competitive position and competitive edge. That's an advantage relative to other ethnic groups or outsiders. In other words, of course they're not going to be too interested in supporting you because they're banking off of you. And if the way that they're banking off of you is why you're in the state of division, you think they're going to want to let up on that? Like, man, we getting all kinds of money. These idiots want to be all divided and broken up. They don't even see what's happening to them. And they keep on going they keep on coming to our restaurants. They keep on going to Hunan Express. They keep on buying our foreign-made shoes and clothes and what do you call that? Copycat clothes or whatever you call that, off brands or whatever. They keep buying all this, and even our name brands, they keep buying it from us. So let's just keep on doing it. Well, they got to be divided for this to happen. Okay, well, let's whatever votes we need to do that keep them divided, vote for that. because it's going to keep them divided, and then their divided state keeps on bringing us money. Because if they're united, they're not going to come to Hunan Chickens. They're going to come to Angie's. They're going to come to whatever this grocery shop is over here. They're going to do stuff like that. They're going to start supporting their own, and we lose business because, you know, if it's just Koreans coming to a Korean restaurant and there's only a few people in that neighborhood that are Korean, kind of start losing business. So they're not going to encourage you to be unified. It's not in their interest. It's not in their interest to be, if they're about their own people, unless they mean well. You understand? They want to see you. Like, look, man, our people are up. You know, I want to encourage you to come up too. It is what it is. Let's see, family. I'm gonna finish this paragraph, but I'm gonna pause on this page because sometimes I start to get a little fatigued and it doesn't make sense for me to just read on and on in such a state. But let me just complete this paragraph. Light and Bonisek argue that the entrepreneurship of immigrant groups is explained by the resources. These resources are used by various ethnic groups to support the firms owned by their co-ethnics to sustain their competitive position and competitive edge relative to other ethnic groups or outsiders. Light and Bonisek define these ethnic resources as those social features of a group which co-ethnic business owners utilize in business or from which their business passively benefits. According to those authors, ethnic resources include values, knowledge, skills, information, attitudes, leadership, solidarity, and orientation to sojourning and institutions. The tendency of immigrant groups, particularly Asians at this time, to employ such resources will be documented in the chapters to follow. I'll be interested to read that chapter. To the employment of ethnic resources to advance the economic interests and power of immigrant groups. Light and Bonisek add the employment of what they refer to as class resources. Class resources include material factors, private property, and ownership of means of production and distribution, businesses, and familia wealth, and investments in human capital, education, training, etc., and cultural resources, Borgias, values, attitudes, knowledge, and skills transmitted intergenerationally in the course of primary socialization. How many of you have something that will be passed down to your next generation? How many of you received some inheritance from those who came before you? See, here we're talking about communities that, they prepare the way for those who come after them so that those can take on and carry their legacy even further. This is, sometimes you can learn a lot from people who are actually doing it right. Even through this systemic racism, look at what they're doing for their own. Our objective would be to take working mechanics and manifest them righteously. You understand? If something works, it works. But it works better in right hands, in righteous hands. That's page 46, family. We're going to pause right there. And next time we continue, it'll be page 47. And like I said, I'm interested in I'm really digging a lot of the points that Brother Amos is getting at, because they're really, even when you consider the time that this book was written, they're still relevant. is still relevant to our times. So let me do this. Still relevant to our times. So I appreciate all those who came in, tuned in to listen and read along with your brother. I'm hoping that we are benefiting and that something constructive is coming out of this, and that just as it's jogging my thoughts, that your thoughts are being jogged too, and it's giving you something to think about, something to reflect on in our time. And hopefully we start to come to more realistic perspectives and approaches to the problems that we're facing today. Because I believe that there is a way to become victorious in the crisis that we suffer. We just need to pay attention and keep on learning, keep on building, keep on doing things such as this right here. Keep on supporting one another, keep on keeping on with the right thing. So inshallah, you can expect to see me live perhaps Wednesday, continuing the reading. My intention is to read it through. I think there's this is something that could benefit in some kind of way, if not today, in time to come. So with that said, dear brothers and sisters, I want to say to you that I definitely appreciate the time with you, and I bid you have a blessed rest of your day. This is your brother Abdul Wadud, aka Questman, live on Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black social media. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, show your support, all that. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace and blessings. Hotep. Shalom. Please do take care.
Welcome to your wake-up call. Soul Journey of Life, Conscious Black social media.
The LightDome.